What happens when a franchise realizes their young star might be worth more to someone else than to them, but nobody's willing to pay the price? There's a palpable tension brewing in the Bay Area, and it's not just about wins and losses. The Golden State Warriors find themselves in a peculiar predicament, one that speaks volumes about the delicate balance between loyalty, asset management, and championship aspirations. Jonathan Kuminga, the athletic, high-ceiling forward who was supposed to be the bridge between dynasties, sits at the center of a swirling trade narrative that refuses to die down. Here's the thing that should make every Warriors fan lean forward in their seats. January 15th isn't just another date on the calendar. It's Judgment Day. Let's cut straight to the heart of the matter. The Warriors can't trade Jonathan Kuminga before January 15th, 2025. Period. It's not a matter of preference or strategy, it's contractual law. When Kuminga signed his new deal with Golden State during the offseason, he triggered a clause that prevents him from being moved for a specific period. That clock runs out in mid-January, and when it does, General Manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. will finally have the freedom to explore what many believe is inevitable. But here's where the story gets genuinely fascinating. The Warriors didn't just sit idle during the summer. They actively listened. The Sacramento Kings came calling. The Phoenix Suns expressed serious interest. Both franchises saw something in Kuminga that made them willing to engage in sign-and-trade discussions. Yet, nothing materialized. Why? Because Golden State didn't like what was being offered in return. Think about that for a moment. Two competitive Western Conference teams desperate to improve their rosters, couldn't put together packages that satisfied the Warriors' valuation of a player they're apparently willing to trade. That's not just a negotiation breakdown. That's a fundamental disagreement about value that could define Kuminga's entire future. According to Anthony Slater's reporting, the Warriors are treating the period between now and January 15th as an unofficial starting clock on trade season. But it's more than that. It's an evaluation period, a chance to answer critical questions that will determine not just Kuminga's fate, but potentially the trajectory of this entire season. Question 1. Can DeAnthony Melton be the backcourt solution? Melton is expected back from ACL rehabilitation in December. If he returns and immediately provides the two-way impact Golden State desperately needs in their backcourt rotation, it changes the equation. Suddenly, the Warriors might feel more comfortable moving Kuminga for a different positional need, knowing they've addressed one major concern. Question 2. Will Al Horford find his rhythm? The veteran center's arrival was supposed to bolster Golden State's shaky depth in the middle. If Horford can provide consistent minutes and stabilize that position, the Warriors gain flexibility. If he struggles, they might need to pivot their trade strategy entirely, perhaps targeting a big man instead of whatever wing or guard they get for Kuminga. Question 3. How is Kuminga himself performing? This might be the most important question of all. If Kuminga suddenly clicks within the Warrior system, if he starts making the reads they need, defending with consistency, and fitting seamlessly alongside Steph Curry and Draymond Green, does the entire conversation change? Or has the relationship already reached a point of no return? The value dilemma that keeps executives up at night. Here's the brutal truth that Warriors management must confront. When the entire league knows you want to trade someone, leverage evaporates like morning fog in the Bay. Kuminga is undeniably talented. At just 21 years old, he possesses the kind of athletic tools that can't be taught: explosive first-step defensive versatility, the physical profile of a modern NBA wing. But talent alone doesn't determine trade value. Fit matters, contract matters, and perception matters most of all. The Kings and Suns generated legitimate bites during restricted free agency, but their offers fell short. Now, as January 15th approaches and other teams watch Kuminga's performance, they're making calculations. They're asking themselves, if Golden State couldn't get what they wanted in the summer and they're still shopping him now, what does that tell us about his actual value? This is the poker game within the poker game. Dunleavy needs to find an organization willing to give owner Joe Lacob the type of return that would justify moving a former lottery pick who still has significant upside. But how do you extract premium value when everyone at the table knows you're motivated to deal? Slater poses the critical question, will there be a player in a trade who will move the needle enough? That's not just about talent. It's about finding someone who's roughly equivalent to Kuminga's ability, but plays a position that better serves Golden State's current championship window. This brings us to the most uncomfortable reality facing the Warriors' front office. They may have to choose between accepting a suboptimal return or keeping a player who doesn't perfectly fit their roster construction. Taking 50 cents for a dollar in a Kuminga trade would sting. It would represent an admission that they mismanaged the situation, that they couldn't maximize the value of a top 7 draft pick. But keeping him out of pride or stubbornness while he continues to occupy a role that doesn't fully utilize his talents, or worse, actively hinders the team's chemistry, could be even more costly. Championship windows are finite, especially when your best player is Steph Curry, who turns 37 in March. Every decision must be weighed against that ticking clock. Can the Warriors afford to wait and hope Kuminga develops into the perfect complementary piece? Or do they need to act decisively, even if it means accepting less than ideal value, to acquire someone who helps them compete right now? When that date arrives, it won't just be about contractual eligibility. It will represent a moment of truth for Golden State's front office. They'll have 2 months of additional data on Kuminga, on Melton, on Horford, on the Western Conference landscape, on which teams are buyers and which are sellers. But they'll also face the same fundamental challenge that existed in the summer, finding a trade partner willing to meet their valuation. And if the summer taught us anything, it's that the market for Kuminga might not be as robust as the Warriors hoped. The irony is almost poetic. Golden State drafted Kuminga with the 7th overall pick in 2021, envisioning him as the athletic, versatile forward who would eventually replace the aging core. Now, for years later, they're trying to trade him to acquire pieces that can help that same aging core win one more championship. Perhaps the most telling aspect of this entire situation is what it reveals about modern NBA roster construction. Talent isn't enough. Potential isn't enough. You need the right talent in the right roles at the right time. Kuminga might be a future all-star on a different team with a different timeline. But for the Warriors in their current championship or bust mode, he might simply be a square peg in a round hole. As January 15th approaches, expect the rumors to intensify. Expect Kuminga's every game to be analyzed through the lens of trade value. Expect other teams to circle, waiting to see if Golden State blinks first and accepts a deal that favors the buyer. The Warriors find themselves in a position no championship-caliber franchise wants to be in, needing to make a move, but lacking the leverage to dictate terms. Whether they pull the trigger on a trade or decide to stick with Kuminga will tell us everything we need to know about how they view their championship odds this season. One thing is certain, January 15th will be here before we know it, and when it arrives, the Warriors will have to make a decision that could define their next 5 years. What do you think the Warriors should do? Should they take whatever they can get for Kuminga and try to maximize Curry's remaining prime years, or should they hold firm on their valuation and risk keeping a player who might not fit? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and smash that like button if you're as intrigued by this situation as we are.